One of the things that I want you to understand very much on being good is how to really be good, of course. So how do you really be good? A friend of mine said, Jesse, you've shown us the problem, show us the solutions. So I want to talk to you about the solution a little bit this morning. In the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, I believe it's the first verse, first, second, third, maybe first and second. It says, the law of the Spirit of life. Actually, let's back up. The 7th chapter of Romans details very clearly how Paul has no power in himself. The rest of us, Paul is talking about himself, but it obviously applies to all of us. In the 7th chapter of Romans, he states very clearly, which I've stated in another video, that in our own ability, our own will, we have no power to do what's right. We have the desire, yes, and I'm sure almost all of you can relate with that. Yes, we have the desire to be good, but the power to do it just isn't there. That's what Paul says very definitively in Romans 7. So then in Romans 8, he says, but thanks be to God, he says, the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus has set me free from the law of sin and death. Okay, now you all know that I struggle with taking the Bible literally. Maybe you don't know that yet, but who cares? However, what I do know is that the Bible is true, whether it's literal or not. So let's just take this and dissect it for a minute. So apparently there is a law called the law of sin and death. Any of you ever feel like you've been under that law? I sure have. Lived under it most of my life, and it sucks. So what does it take to get you free from a law? Let's just think about the physical world for a minute. Let's take the law of gravity, for example. Okay, we know that gravity is one of the laws of physics, right? So you can't argue with the laws. You can't argue with the laws of physics. If you do, you're going to lose, right? You jump off the top of a 10-story building, bam. The law of gravity is going to win every time. So if human beings are under the law of sin and death, doesn't it make sense that that law is going to win every time, no matter how hard we fight against it? I think that's what's going on. That's why people the world over want to be good and try to be good, but just fail at it. Yes, I understand that some people do it to some degree. I don't claim to understand all the ins and outs of this. These are generalities that I'm speaking of. So, back to the laws. If there's a law of the sin and death, then how in the world are we supposed to stop doing crappy things? How are we supposed to stop doing crappy things and do the right things? How are we supposed to be good? Well, let's go back to the analogy again of the laws of physics. If one of the laws of physics is gravity, and that law holds precedence over everything on the face of the earth and in the whole universe, we know, why is it that clouds and airplanes and birds and helium balloons and anything can beat the law of gravity? Why is it that clouds, which I've heard weigh millions of tons, obviously, look up at any cloud any day, a big one, and see how big it is, and just think of the fact that it's made of water. Water is heavy, right? So clouds weigh millions of tons, thousands of tons, however much they weigh a lot. And yet they beat the law of gravity all day, every day long. How does this happen? It happens by another law. So, the only way to beat a law is with another law. Okay? So the laws of lift and I don't know what else. Ask a flight engineer, and they will tell you all the laws that enable planes to fly. Ask a meteorologist and he will tell you what laws are keeping those clouds in the sky. Okay? So, the point is that it takes a law to beat another law. Okay? So, this is probably true in the judicial world as well. You have to have a law to beat another law, right? If there's one law in effect, another law is the only way to get free from that law. So if human beings are under the law of sin and death, then it makes sense that we need another law to free us from that so that we can be good. Enter the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. That law is what enables us to be good. So, the main point here is that just struggling along in your willpower and doing your best to be good and constantly failing like most of us have. I know some people seem to be better than others, but, and again, I don't understand. I don't claim to understand everything about everybody in the whole world. However, I needed a law, and that law is the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. Do I understand how it works? No. But I am getting clues and I'm learning. So, and I want to share it with you because it's a huge, huge key, a huge, huge, huge key to actually learning how to really be good in life. So, again, there's one law, you have another law to beat it. So, how do you avail yourself of that law, the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus? Well, that I'm going to start in another video because that's a little bit longer than I want to talk about now.